Good afternoon, Virgo. There is something that has been sitting in you around this connection, a particular kind of question that does not come from inside the connection itself, but from the outside of it, from the world's opinion of what connections should look like and who should be with whom, and what the acceptable parameters are for two people to build something together without it being scrutinized or questioned or explained by people who are not in it and whose understanding of it is necessarily incomplete. The age gap has been that question sitting in you in whatever form it takes for you specifically, as a concern about whether what exists between you and this person is something they fully accept or something they are settling for, or something that will eventually become a source of friction as the distance in years between you makes itself felt in ways that are not yet visible, but that you wonder about in the quieter moments when the wondering has room to arrive without being immediately displaced by the experience of actually being with this person, which is the strongest counter argument to every concern the wondering produces. Welcome, and let me tell you what I see from the inside of this person's experience of you and of this connection and of the age gap that you have been wondering about and that they have not been wondering about in the way you might expect. They do not mind the age gap. I want to say that plainly before anything else, because it is the most direct answer to the question that has been sitting in you about whether the distance in years is something they are navigating around or tolerating or accepting as the cost of being with you. Despite the inconvenience it represents, they do not mind it. Not in the performative way of someone who has decided that they should not mind it because the other qualities of the connection are sufficient to make the minding worth setting aside in the genuine way of someone for whom the age gap simply does not register as a significant factor in their experience of who you are and what exists between you. It is not something they are working around, because from where they are standing, there is nothing to work around. The years between you, in their experience, are not the dominant feature of the connection. The dominant feature of the connection is you and what you bring, which makes the number feel like the least relevant thing about the situation. I want to tell you what they actually see when they look at you, because I think you have been wondering about that too, perhaps more than the age gap itself, what you are in their specific perception, and whether what they see is the full version of who you are, or a version filtered through the particular lens of the age difference between you, and what they think someone of your age should or should not be. What they see is you without the filter, without the category of your age preceding or shaping the actual perception of who you are as a specific and particular person with specific and particular qualities that have nothing to do with the number and everything to do with who you have become through whatever experience and growth and becoming. Your specific life has produced. They see someone who thinks in a way that engages them genuinely, not the politely engaged way of someone being generous with their attention towards someone who does not quite reach them, but the genuinely engaged way of someone who has found a mind that does something to their own, that not every mind does, that asks questions of their thinking and produces answers in them that they did not have before the thinking happened, in the presence of yours. They see someone who feels things in a way that is visible and real and not managed into something more socially acceptable or less exposing than what is actually happening in you. When you feel something, and that realness of feeling is something they find not uncomfortable in the way of too much, but compelling in the way of finally, here's someone who is actually present in their own experience, rather than managing the experience from the outside of it at a careful distance that keeps it from becoming too real or too demanding or too visible to anyone watching. They see someone who has something to offer that is specific to who you are, not generic, not the qualities that any pleasant and compatible person might offer, but the particular combination of how you see and how you feel and how you engage and how you exist in the world that belongs to you specifically, and that they have been unable to find in quite this form in anyone else they have encountered, regardless of age. That is what they see when they look at you, not the number, the person. I want to speak now about what you are, everything they have been looking for means, because that is in the title, and it is the most significant claim, and I want to say it with the full weight of what I mean, rather than as inspirational language. That sounds meaningful without being specific. Everything they have been looking for does not mean you are perfect, or that they have found in you the idealized version of a person that exists in imagination, rather than in the specific and imperfect reality of an actual human being, with all the complexity and contradiction that actual human beings carry. Everything they have been looking for means the specific things they have been wanting in a connection that previous connections did not provide, or provided incompletely, or provided in one area while being absent in another, that mattered equally. The combination is what they have been looking for. The particular combination that is yours and that they have found in you in the form they were hoping to find it, without being certain that it existed in the specific person they were looking for before they found you. I want to describe what that combination is in the specific terms I can see from here, because I think you deserve to know what it is about you that makes the age gap irrelevant to someone who has found in you what they have been looking for. The first thing in the combination is the way you listen, the specific quality of attention you bring. When someone is speaking to you, that is different from how most people listen, which is partially while simultaneously forming a response or relating what is being said to their own experience, or waiting for the part that is relevant to them, rather than being fully present in the receiving of what the other person is offering. Without the parallel processing, that reduces the quality of the listening. From full reception to partial reception with editorial commentary running simultaneously, you listen fully, and people feel that, especially the person looking at you right now, who has been listened to, but rarely in the full and present way that your listening provides, and who finds in that quality of attention something they have been wanting to feel for longer than this connection has existed. The second thing in the combination is the way you hold your values, not as performance, not as the social declaration of a person who wants to be known for standing for certain things, but as the actual operating system of how you move through your life and make decisions and treat people and show up in situations that test whether the values are real, or only real when it is easy to hold them. Your values are real when it is not easy. That is the specific and visible thing that this person has observed in you, and that they find in a world where the gap between stated values and lived values is often significant, more valuable than almost anything else they could have found in someone at any age. And the third thing in the combination is the specific quality of how you love, or how you care, or how you invest in the people and things that matter to you, which is fully without the protective holding back that people who have been hurt often bring to subsequent connections as a form of insurance against being fully exposed, in the way that full investment always exposes a person to whatever the connection produces. You love fully, even knowing what that exposes you to. And for someone who has been loved partially or conditionally, or with the holding back that was always present, even when it was not acknowledged, the full love that you offer is the most specific and unmistakable form of everything they have been looking for. I want to say something now about the age gap itself and what it actually means in the context of this specific connection, because I think the meaning is different from what the concern about it might suggest. The age gap means that you arrived at who you are through a different path than the one they took, over a different period of time, through different experiences and different seasons of growth that produce the specific version of you that they have found and found to be everything they were looking for. The different path is part of what makes the finding significant, because it means that who you are was not produced by the same conditions that produced who they are, which means the combination of the two produces something that neither path alone would have produced, something that comes specifically from the meeting of these two specific people with these specific histories and these specific qualities that emerged from different seasons of different lives, and that found each other in this specific moment when both were ready for exactly this combination. I want to speak to you now about what to do with the concern that has been sitting in you around the age gap, because I do not think telling you to simply stop worrying about it is useful advice or realistic or the kind of thing that actually helps the concern resolve into something more manageable in your daily experience of the connection. What I want to offer instead is a different frame for what the concern is actually pointing to and what would address it most directly. The concern is not really about the age gap. It is about whether you are truly wanted in the full and complete form of being wanted, rather than being tolerated or accepted despite something, or chosen from a limited field of options that made you the most available rather than the most desired. The age gap is where that deeper concern has found its most visible expression, because it is the most obvious thing about the difference between you that could serve as the reason why you are being tolerated or settled for rather than genuinely and specifically wanted. The answer to the deeper concern is what I have already told you. You are genuinely and specifically wanted, not despite anything, not in the context of limited alternatives, not as a compromise, but because of exactly who you are in the specific combination that belongs to you and that this person has found and recognized as everything they have been looking for. The age gap is not the obstacle you thought it might be to being genuinely wanted. It is simply one of the specific features of the specific person that they have found, and that does not diminish the wanting in any way that is visible to them from where they are standing. I want to give you something practical for the moments when the concern returns, which it will, because concerns of this kind do not resolve permanently after a single message or a single conversation. They resolve gradually through the accumulated experience of being in the connection and finding in the ordinary moments of it evidence that the wanting is real and consistent and not dependent on circumstances that make being with you easy, but present even in the circumstances that make it less easy, and that therefore reveal whether what exists is the genuine article or something more circumstantial. Watch for the evidence in the ordinary moments, not the grand gestures, not the explicitly affirmative statements that anyone can produce. In the moments when producing them is the socially expected thing to do, but the ordinary moments when no particular affirmation is required and the wanting shows up anyway in how they are with you, in what they choose, when the choice is between you and something else that has nothing to do with social expectation or the performance of a relationship. For anyone watching, that evidence accumulated over time in the ordinary moments will answer the concern more permanently than anything I can say in a single message, no matter how accurately I describe what I see in the energy between you. This person does not mind the age gap because from where they are standing, looking at you, there is nothing to mind. There is only you in the full and specific form of exactly what they have been looking for longer than they perhaps knew they were looking. The age gap is a fact. Like many facts about two people that are less relevant than the experience of being with those two people, which in this case is the experience of having found finally the specific combination of someone who listens fully and holds their values when it costs something and loves completely without the protective holding back that has made so many other connections feel like almost rather than finally. You are the finally for this person. Let the concern step back and let that be true in whatever quiet and unreserved way allows you to be fully in the connection that you deserve to be fully in, because you are everything they have been looking for and they are in it with you fully without minding the gap that you have been minding on both your behalves without needing to let them carry their own peace with it and stop carrying it for them. They are fine with all of it, with the gap, with the number, with whatever the world thinks about the two of you together. The only remaining question is whether you can be fine with all of it too. And the answer to that is yes, when you let it be.